and welcome to this week's episode of World Today, where we'll take you through all the big developments from across the world. Myanmar continues to suffer at the hands of the military. The genocide against the people of Myanmar continues. Even as the world deliberates upon peace in Afghanistan, violence against women in particular continues in the war-torn region. And a 6-day blockade of the Suez Canal brought shipping to a halt, causing immense economic damage to global economy. All that and more, but first up, it was an auspicious day in Myanmar's calendar. 27th March marked the full moon day of the Bong, also an important day in Buddhism when people observe it with festivities and by visiting the pagodas. It is also a very important day in Myanmar's history, which commemorates Myanmar military's beginning of the resistance against Japanese occupation in World War II. But today, 27th March will be remembered and commemorated as one of the deadliest crackdowns by security forces of Myanmar against its own people. The death toll has gone beyond 100 and is only rising.
Military junta chief Min Aung Hlaing threw a lavish dinner party to mark Armed Forces Day on 27th of March evening, while his army carried out strikes in Karen state and more than 100 were killed while protesting in the streets of Yangon and other parts of the country. It was the deadliest day since the 1st February coup.
I deeply sorry for the people who have lost their life on the streets. Every citizen of the world wants the prosperity of their country and the peaceful and
Miss Myanmar, Han Lei, was participating in the final event of the beauty pageant, Miss Grand International event in the neighbouring state of Thailand. She used her brief moment in the spotlight on 27th of March to appeal for international help for her country.
Let's create a better world with individual responsibility for the new generations.
The killings quickly drew international condemnation, including a joint statement from the defense chiefs of the United States of America, Australia, Canada, Germany, Greece, Italy, Japan, Denmark, the Netherlands, New Zealand, South Korea, and the UK. Undeterred by the brutality of crackdown, protesters were back on the streets on the very next day. Saturday airstrikes in Karen forced people to cross border and enter Thailand seeking medical help and refuge. Free Burma Rangers, a humanitarian aid and relief organization, shot the video of thousands of Karen people living and hiding in forests and in valleys since the Saturday attacks. Those who fled to Thailand started to return on Monday. They said they had been forced back. Thai authorities denied it.
จริงๆแล้วเนี่ยมีการเจรจามีการพูดคุยหลายคนก็เข้ามาหมู่บ้านโน้นหมู่บ้านนี้เข้ามานำร่องมาก่อนพอมาเจอเราก็ชี้แจงแล้วก็ถามเขาว่ามันมีปัญหาอะไรในประเทศของเขาตรงในส่วนที่ท่านอยู่แต่วันนี้เขาบอกไม่มีอ่ะไม่มีก็กลับไปก่อนได้ไหมล่ะ
2 days after the brutal crackdown, US announced suspension of trade deal with Myanmar until a democratic government is brought back to the country.
Today, USTR announced the suspension of all U.S. engagement with Burma under the 2013 Trade and Investment Framework Agreement, effective immediately. This suspension will remain in effect until the return of democratically elected government. Additionally, the sanctions on military-owned holding companies, MEC and MEHL, we announced last week, are the most significant action since the February 1st coup to impose costs on the military regime. We've also announced a number of actions by the Department of Commerce, new export controls on Burma, and added 4 Burmese entities to the entity list in response to the military coup and violent crackdowns.
As the funerals of those killed in the 27th of March crackdown took place, the Assistance Association for Political Prisoners, an independent organization which keeps a tally widely accepted as accurate, put the latest figure of dead since the Myanmar police and soldiers began trying to suppress oppression to the coup at 510.
The massive cargo vessel MV Ever Given was stuck in the Suez Canal and became a hot topic in the weeks gone by. It is free now, but there is going to be a huge financial impact given the situation and the blockade. Here is where we tell you why the situation was a problem and what is the financial impact of the blockade.
This tiny, narrow canal is one of the world's busiest shipping channels for oil and refined fuels, grain and other trade linking east to west. A crucial maritime link connecting Asia and Europe. A 6-day blockage of Egypt's Suez Canal when the 400-meter-long container vessel MV Ever Given ran aground has cost the world dearly, bringing shipping business to a grinding halt.
因为现在他们如果说是给我们下订单的话，也没有船公司肯接，现在船公司也是处在停滞状态。
Several nations located in the eastern and western parts of the world have suffered a devastating economic blow due to the canal blockage. The Suez Canal blockage roughly cost 12% of global trade and was holding up trade valued at over $9 billion per day as per the Lloyd's list. This is equivalent to $400 million worth of trade per hour or $6.7 million per minute.
It's important to keep the Suez Canal trade impacts in perspective. The estimate generated by other folks has been about $10 billion per day. That's about 20% of global daily trade. However, that's not lost completely. So that trade is delayed.
The Japanese-owned ship had blocked the narrow canal for 6 days and now it faces investigations. Bernard Schultz Ship Management are the technical managers of the container ship, which had an all-Indian crew on board, has told India Today that investigations will be carried out by investigators from the UK, BNI Club and BSM's technical team. The vessel is registered in Panama and the Panamanian authorities are also carrying out an investigation of their own. Meanwhile, the larger fear and questions are about the disruption of critical supply chain if such a blockade recurs.
What I think this probably goes to show is the fragility, perhaps, of the global supply chain. I mean, this is a very significant maritime artery, one of only 2 major canals in the world that operate in this way in terms of moving ships from one ocean to another. And so I think any blockage there has proven to be, really, really challenging. And even in the sort of, I hate to say post-COVID world, but we're sort of hopefully moving in that direction. You've got to remember that 90% of the world's goods are moved by ship. That's why the maritime industry is still so incredibly important for global trade. So any blockage of any kind that delays things has an unprecedented impact on global trade. And that's exactly what we've seen in the last week.
While the disruption may cause temporary delays, experts feel that the incident could inflate prices of some commodities and goods for a short period.
Afghanistan and bringing peace to the country has become a core foreign policy issue for many countries. There are different formats and different countries have come out with a process on Afghanistan, be it the Istanbul process, the Moscow Troika, the Chinese initiative, or for that matter, the Doha peace process. But peace eludes the war-ravaged nation. Afghanistan is still under attack, particularly women in Afghanistan, the latest being the polio vaccination drive where women have been killed. Here's a report.
These are families who've lost their loved ones in the line of duty. Duty to the young of Afghanistan. Out on polio vaccine drives, women have become the latest target of extremist groups in Afghanistan. Gunmen have killed 3 female polio vaccination healthcare workers in the eastern Afghan city of Jalalabad.
ترهګریز برید کړی متاسفانه غي په شهادت رسولې ده همداراز هم مهاله د جلال آباد ښار په ومه ناحیه کې په لال قاسم هغه زیارت سره نږدې په 2 نورو واکسیناتورو ترهګریز برید کړی دی متاسفانه هغه دواړه هم په شهادت رسولې دي یعنی په 2 پیښو کې 3 واکسیناتوران په شهادت رسول شوي.
The healthcare workers were part of a 5-day door-to-door anti-polio vaccination drive. Launched in Afghanistan on the 29th of March, about 70,000 health workers are involved in implementing the polio campaign. 40% of this workforce are women. Attackers in Jalalabad had gunned down a policewoman as she was headed to work on the 1st of April. While the police have arrested 2 people for the crime, security agencies in Afghanistan are worried that new tactics are being tried out by terrorists.
What is new is that they have created a simple model, easy to use and make a sound, harm 1 or 2, not necessarily with an objective to exactly kill someone, rather if he died, if he not, he's injured, or at least the sound is made or threatened.
100% میترسیم از ماینای چسبکی. اگر در موتر خود ما بچسبه یا موتر که در پلیس روان هستیم، موتر پلیس است، اردوی ملی است، اینا هم ما را بسیار بد لرزه میاره که اگر موتر اونا انفجار کنه ما ضرر میبینیم.
The security situation in Afghanistan is on the cusp of change. While the United States is making plans to pull out of Afghanistan, the stakes to provide security for the general population is only mounting. The earlier plan had been to eliminate the Taliban completely, but that no longer seems to be possible. The outfit today has become an undeniable stakeholder in the peace process on Afghanistan. The Taliban now sit at the high table in Doha with the Americans, the Russians, the Chinese and Pakistan.
Welcome back to World Today. Before we go forward with the COVID-19 vaccine details and challenges, let's take a look at some other stories doing the rounds from across the world in World at a Glance. 2nd April, Taiwan witnessed the country's deadliest railway disaster. A train partially derailed in eastern Taiwan after being hit by an unmanned vehicle that had rolled down a hill. The train had more than 400 people on board. Authorities claim that more than 100 people were injured while the death toll is close to 50. Survivors climbed out of windows and walked along the train's roof to reach safety. Russian opposition leader Alexei Navalny is on a hunger strike. In a statement posted on Instagram on 31st of March, he complained about prison authorities' refusal to give him the right medicines and to allow his doctor to visit him behind bars. Last week, Alexei Navalny complained of back pains and leg problems. The 44-year-old outspoken opponent of President Vladimir Putin was arrested on 17th of January upon his return from Germany, where he spent 5 months recovering from a nerve agent poisoning that he blames on the Kremlin. On 1st of April, Hong Kong court convicted 7 pro-democracy advocates for organizing and participating in an unlawful assembly during massive anti-government protests in 2019. The 7 activists include media tycoon and founder of the Apple Daily tabloid, Jimmy Lai, as well as 82-year-old Martin Lee, a veteran of the city's democracy movement. The protest witnessed 1.7 million people marching against a proposed bill that would have allowed criminal suspects to be extradited to mainland China for trial on 8th August 2019. Hong Kong was rocked by months of protests in the second half of 2019, sparked by this extradition bill that was eventually withdrawn. The trial in the death of George Floyd started on 30th March. Former Minneapolis police officer Derek Chauvin went on trial for allegedly killing Floyd. The death of George Floyd sparked outrage across the United States of America and beyond after a bystander video showed Derek Chauvin pressing his knee on Floyd's neck for about 9 minutes as the black man went limp. The trial will continue for a 14-member jury to hear and decide the fate of 45-year-old Chauvin. On the last day of March, election officials of Israel handed over the results of last week's vote to President Reuven Rivlin. With neither the incumbent Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu nor those determined to topple him gaining a clear majority to form a government, the president is now tasked with choosing the Prime Minister designate he thinks has the best chance of assembling a majority. Leader of the Likud party, Benjamin Netanyahu, and Israel's longest-serving premier, overshadowed by his ongoing corruption trial, has appealed to 2 of his former allies to come home and form government together. The COVID-19 vaccine candidates continue to face different challenges across the world. AstraZeneca still faces suspension in some countries, either completely or in particular categories. Pfizer, on the other hand, is trying to get a green signal to administer vaccines to children of the age of 12 or above. But the bigger worry continues to remain inadequate and unequal distribution of the COVID-19 vaccine to developing and lower-income nations.
Denmark has decided to prolong its suspension of AstraZeneca COVID-19 vaccine by 3 more weeks. Other countries like Canada and Germany suspended the use of the AstraZeneca shot for different age groups. While Canada suspended administering AstraZeneca jabs to under 55 citizens over concerns of blood clots, Germany announced that it will not administer it to those under 60, unless they are in a high-risk category and agree to take the vaccine knowing the small risks of side effects.
Ja, ich finde es nicht in Ordnung, dass man das nicht genug ausgetestet hat oder warum jetzt nur die Älteren das kriegen sollen, die jetzt natürlich sagen, will ich nicht. Ja, ich bin froh, dass ich hier war und ja, tut mir alles leid, aber die Jüngeren müssten auch geimpft werden. Ja, ich habe junge Väter und die werden sich nicht mit AstraZeneca impfen lassen.
The head of the European Medicines Agency, however, has said that there is no evidence that would support restricting the use of AstraZeneca's vaccine to any population.
The experts have advised us that they have not been able to identify specific risk factors, including age, gender, or previous medical history of clotting disorders for these very rare events. And as I mentioned previously, a causal link with the vaccine has not yet been proven, but it is possible and further analysis is still ongoing. According to the current scientific knowledge, there is no evidence that would support restricting the use of this vaccine in any population.
EMA continues to study reports of new cases as they come in and will provide a further assessment next week. In the meantime, Pfizer has announced that its vaccine is safe and strongly protective in kids as young as 12. This is a step towards possibly beginning vaccination in this age group before children head back to school. Most COVID-19 vaccines being rolled out worldwide are for adults who are at higher risk of the coronavirus. Pfizer's vaccine is authorized for age 16 and older. In a few weeks, Pfizer and its German partner BioNTech plan to ask the US Food and Drug Administration and regulators in other countries to allow emergency use of the shot starting at age 12. While the world debates on which particular vaccine is more effective for which population, the bigger concern is the imbalance in access to the vaccine that mostly favors rich developed countries.
Nobody wants to see vaccine inequity continue in the world, and that the idea that 70% of vaccines today have been administered only by 10 countries is really not acceptable. It's not acceptable that there are poor people or poor countries being left behind.
Scores of the trade body's member nations have backed efforts led by South Africa and India to get WTO to grant a temporary waiver of its Intellectual Property Pact to help boost vaccine production at a time of insufficient supplies. Some wealthier countries and those with strong pharmaceutical industries oppose the idea, saying it would damage future innovation.
That's all in this edition of World Today, but before I go, I'll leave you with visuals of this volcano in Iceland. The eruption was so vibrant that it was visible from space and from satellites orbiting hundreds of miles above the ground. Take a look. Also in the visuals, you can see a photographer who was there taking pictures of the erupting volcano. He had to make a quick escape as the lava flowed towards him. Watch the visuals and enjoy. Goodbye and take care.
Hello everyone, this is Rahul Kamal here. Hope you enjoyed this video. For the latest news and analysis, like and subscribe the India Today YouTube channel and don't forget to press the bell icon to stay updated.